Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 10th edition of the WHYBUT podcast. My name is Nick, and I am joined. Woohoo!
We made it to 10, man. We did it.
10 episode anniversary. Let's go.
Is this, real quick, is this going to be like a modern Netflix series where we only run for 10 episodes and then we kind of pack it in? Like that's the end of the series?
That's it. So we're going to say we're on to season 2 next, right? The next batch of 10.
If we get renewed.
If we get renewed.
Which, given our Netflix nature, is highly unlikely.
Exactly. So
I think modern Netflix renews like what, 1 in 400 shows for a second season.
I want to know the statistics on that. Actually,
I feel like they're so notorious for just canceling instantly. Like people are like, yeah, this show's great, and Netflix is like, sad face, we didn't get 50 billion views, and so we're gonna have to cancel it. It didn't hit our targets.
Sorry.
It only got 39.7 billion. It's not enough. And they pack it in.
Man, I wonder how popular Netflix would be if they did like a Amazon Prime style. You don't have to subscribe if you don't want to, but you can also just buy a show for like $4 for a round of watching. What you mean. Yeah.
Like
you know
instead
what
of
I mean?
subscribing, you can just purchase it. Kind of like, Nick, this is one of my topics for later. I know we've completely skipped the introductory pinnacle question of the podcast, which is blasphemy. But I was going to talk about the fact that Spotify now has audiobooks, which is crazy.
I've heard of this. Yes, I've been told.
It's wild. I have no idea how they've managed to swindle this, because currently I feel like the audiobook industry is dominated by Big A, right? Who have their...
Which, it was a bookstore. It did start as a bookstore,
that's true.
To be fair.
But so, like, Amazon with Audible kind of dominates audiobooks, right? Which it didn't used to. You used to be able to buy audiobooks from like a bookstore in like disc or tape form, right? But now it's all on Amazon, and you pay like a certain amount a month. Maybe I think it's like £8, and you get 1 audiobook per month. But now, somehow, I've no idea how they've swindled it. Spotify has audiobooks, and you get 15 hours of audiobook listening per month. So they've got like all of the audiobooks, and you can just listen to 15 hours, which is almost equivalent to 1 audiobook, depending on how long your book is. But I think most audiobooks are less than 15 hours long. And so you just kind of get like 1 audiobook a month with Spotify, which is crazy.
That's very good.
It's very good.
I've been listening to from that.
That's what I'm saying, man. You got to get on the Spotify audiobook section.
I do. I need to switch.
I googled it, and apparently there's like the first like few articles that came up were all like authors confused because they weren't consulted at all on this whole deal. Like apparently the publishers who own the rights were just like, yeah, that's fine. They struck a deal with Spotify. None of the authors agreed to it. Some of the authors are like, hey, you don't have the rights to stream my audiobook via Spotify, and it's apparently going to be a whole thing. But for the time being, from a consumer standpoint, it's great. You're pre-existing. I think it's only in the UK and somewhere else. I don't think it's like worldwide. Yeah, it's crazy. Spotify audiobooks. Let's have a look. Where is there audiobooks on Spotify? Let's have a look. Which countries? Because I don't think I remember reading it. Yeah, the UK and Australia, October 3rd. The two.
No way.
The 2 areas, now have 15 hours of audiobooks per month, with the feature expanding to the States later this year. So if you're in the US, maybe it's coming soon. Yeah,
interesting. Very interesting.
It's great though. Like if you already got they put the price up last month by £1. It's like $11.99 or something now a month, which is less than ideal, or maybe $10.99. But if you get 1 free audiobook a month, that's £8 a month saved on Audible, right? It's crazy.
Right. Well, in that case, Isaac, what have you been listening to? Welcome to WHYLUT.
So I only found out about this the other day, and so I haven't really been listening to an awful lot, to be honest. But there's a couple of books that I've been intrigued to listen to. There's always, there's a couple of books, right, or a couple of like things you hear about, and I don't have an active Audible subscription, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, I should, like, there were a couple of books where I'm like, I should read that, or I should listen to that. But then I don't want to pay for it, and so I don't. But like the fact that now you can, obviously I think you can do this with Audible as well. I think you can refund a credit if you don't like the book, right, within like a certain period of time. I don't think you have to commit to it. But the fact now that with your 15 hours, you could just start 15 audiobooks and listen to like an hour of each, right? or just effectively do 30 minutes a day of audiobook listening for free with Spotify, right? So your morning walk or something, you can just every day. It's crazy. But the one that I started listening to the other day that I've heard about so much that I've not listened to is Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life.
Oh, I really need to read this book.
Yeah.
I've been recommended it by so many people.
I've heard mixed things about Jordan Peterson and the book. Like, the book is rated very well. I've heard mixed things about Jordan Peterson, especially in recent years, you know. But people say the book's good. I listened to the first chapter, I think, the other night, and so far, it's interesting. I'll probably continue listening to the audiobook and see where it goes. But yeah, no, I was surprised because I just opened Spotify one day and it was like, hey, do you like audiobooks? Let us know what you like. And there was like a questionnaire thing that I didn't fill out because I was like, no, go away, I want to listen to music. And then later on, I was like, wait, did they say audiobooks? And I went back and I checked it. It's like, yeah, you get 15 hours of, not a sponsor, by the way, but you get 15 hours of audiobook listening per month, man.
Wow, that is very interesting. By the way, Spotify, if you do want to sponsor us and get exclusive rights, please reach out.
Yeah, we'll move the podcast exclusively onto Spotify.
We will. But you have to give us more than one free audiobook a month.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. And you've got to give us more than you give to Joe Rogan as well. So you know,
exactly.
103 million should do it. I think thereabouts.
That's all right. That's all right. I'll take that. I'll take that. Be lucky that we said 103, not 105. Most people go to 105. We're being nice, right? We're being very nice.
You could maybe haggle us down to like 99.9, but that's as low as we'll go.
Oh, you could do a lot with that 100 grand, Isaac.
You could, but I'm just thinking, like, from there, you know what I mean? It might be one of those things, you know, how sometimes certain businesses have like a thing where if you spend, you know, they'll be like, here's a company card, it's all good, but if you spend over like $100, you got to register it or something, or you got to mark it down or whatever it is. Yeah, I think that's the same with Spotify, right? Where if they spend over 100 million, then they've got to go through a whole process of kind of like explaining it. Whereas if it's under 100 million, they can just, you know, who cares, right? I think it's the same at Spotify, at Netflix, right? It's like if it's under 100 million, you know, make another island dating show with 14 hot randos, right? But as soon as it creeps over 100 million, you know, to Stranger Things season 6, it's like, ooh. Now you
have to get the books out.
You got to explain it to the big dogs. The accountants are
coming. That's very interesting. Oh, yes, I need to get on that. Did Jordan Peterson narrate his book?
He does narrate his book, yeah.
Okay, very interesting.
I find it's pretty common these days. Like, the author, especially if the author is a public figure, they almost always narrate their book, right?
Yeah.
Like 100% of the time.
Someone who's used to speaking as well. You know,
even if they're not used to speaking, man, I found that just like anybody who is like a semi-public figure, they usually narrate the audiobook. I think it's mostly because like most books are obviously vehicles for money, but they're also vehicles to build a personal brand, right? And if they narrate their own book, that helps to improve their stage for like a future book or for future shows or talks or whatever it is. And I think it just kind of is good all around for everybody, right?
Yeah. I agree. Like I've always thought, not that I plan to, but if I wrote a book, I would narrate the audiobook version. I'd be like, hello everybody. And I'd say it in the exact tone that my inner monologue said it in as I was typing it or writing it, right? I know I can deliver the exact experience I intended to the listener, the way it was meant to be played, TM Isaac. So yes, no, I would do that for sure.
Sorry, Nick, I'm on a separate bit of information here now. Coming to you live from the NewYorkTimes.com. Apparently, it only not live. This is old news, but it says it only seems like everything on streaming gets cancelled now. Apparently, Netflix only cancelled 11% of their shows.
Wow! I wonder though what the weighting is of those 11% of shows being cancelled being more popular.
Yeah.
So is it a vocal minority? Is that it? Is that
maybe
multitude of factors here? Is maybe Netflix cancelling one show, causing such like a media attention bubble that they get the stereotype for it? I don't know.
It says a 2023 study, so this year, by The Wrap, found that Netflix formally cancelled a mere 11% of its new shows being the keyword there, I guess, far below the broadcast rate. The analysis did note that Netflix airs many single-season, quote, limited series that may have been less limited had more people watched them. So there were some shows that kind of could have maybe gone further, but Netflix kind of made them limited. I think the trouble that Netflix has sometimes, obviously, they're somewhat notorious for kind of canceling a show early. I think, though, it's not necessarily new shows. I think it's season 2s. Like, they'll do a season 2, and then they'll cancel it before season 3 or season 4 or season 5, right? And people are like, oh, it got cut down. Sometimes it happens after season 1. And I think that usually what happens is, like, a show comes out, people are like, this is a good show, like an actually good show, but as is the case with most, like, actually good things, nobody watches them, right? The best movies, the biggest movies, the ones that make the most money, are not notoriously the best movies, right? Like, people aren't, like, critically acclaiming these movies. They're like, yeah, they're fine. You know what I mean? Like, the newest Transformers movie is probably going to do gangbusters at the box office, right? But I don't think the critics are going to be like, yeah, this movie changed my life. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what's happening with Netflix, where a show will come out, it'll do really well. All of the, you know, it's always the case on social media. There's probably like 5% of people on Twitter, aka X.com, who do like 95% of the tweeting, right? And I think those 5% are probably the vocal minority who actually, you know, are like, oh, I think this is a good show, like well made, well produced, well directed, super good acting, cool, unique story, whatever. And then the 95% of normies like us are just kind of like, you know, I don't really fancy watching this kind of show. And so Netflix is like, I guess we're making another season of Love, Sex on the Beach 3 Extreme Edition, you know?
Plus, yeah, Prime.
Plus Find Love indoors, online.
All stars. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the other problem is, which I've experienced personally, is ending a season on a cliffhanger.
Oh, I hate it.
And then with the basically the producers treating it as if they were going to get another season and then it not getting renewed. If it ended on a kind of a closed out chapter to, you know, a book in the series, let's say. So it closed off on not a cliffhanger, but if there was more afterwards, it would make sense. That would be great, right? But I did see one show once. I don't think it was axed by Netflix, but it was axed by someone.
Yeah.
They literally ended it on a cliffhanger and then nothing ever again. And it was mid-season, I think.
Oh, see,
it's
awful. Tricky, right? Because on the one hand, I could see from a showrunner's point of view, if you end your show on a cliffhanger and you do get another season, you create this good feeling, right? I think it's fun to watch a show that ends on a cliffhanger and then be actively looking forward to the next season, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to where a season ends, wraps everything up nicely, and then could continue. That's obviously better if they are going to get cancelled. But like from a show watching experience, I think it's better when there's some continuity there. I also think it's the same in terms of like multi-series story. You see less of this because of the fact that so much stuff gets cancelled. But like, you watch some older shows and the continuity between seasons is surprising, right? Like they'll have some certain stories and plot points that kind of weave themselves into multiple series in a way that you don't see in this kind of age of TV where everything starts at the beginning of the season and is wrapped up nicely by the end because they don't know if they're going to get another season. And so I think it does deteriorate television a little bit when there's no room at all for planning for the future, where you can only plan 10 episodes ahead, right? From any given time, or even less than that if you're not on the first episode. Obviously, it'd be better if Netflix could like tell them up front, like, hey, we're going to do like 3 seasons of this, right? But obviously Netflix doesn't know that, right? They've got no idea how many seasons they're going to do. They're kind of balancing on a knife's edge, being like, oh, you know, if people start watching, we're going to cancel it at a moment's notice, right?
Yeah, I guess that's also potentially why stuff that's based on books tends to do fairly well as well, because the books... You have the story, you have the cliffhanger, you have the continuation. If you don't get it renewed,
you've also got a bit of a gauge already as to how popular the series is.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's I think the main thing, right? Whereas if you, it's like I've been watching Sex Education on Netflix, right? Which is a good show, but it feels like they've kind of had to contrive new stories for each season because each season wraps up nice. I don't know if you've seen any of the show, but like
I have.
The season 1 will like start and then everything's finished and then season 2 starts and it's like it's the same vibe but there's like a completely different story going on, which makes sense to a degree, but like I feel like there's a lack of continuity between some of the seasons. You know what I mean? Like it's the same cast, same scenario, but I feel like some of the continuity is lost because of the fact that they kept trying to like wrap everything up at the end of a series and then start again with a new series. And it feels like at the start of every new series there's like this, I've not seen season 4 yet, but I've seen the first 3. It seems like they have to kind of create a new premise for the show to evolve around?
Yeah, there was a bit of continuity from what I remember in Sex Education. It was not 1 and 2, yeah, for sure. Seasons 2 and 3. There was a cliffhanger on the end of season 2, I want to say. That was pretty good. 3 and 4. So I watched the first episode of season 4. The end of okay, right. So I started watching it on Netflix, and I need the previous season recap. And I pressed the skip button by accident, got thrown into 4, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. So I need to actually go back and look at the recap for that.
Yeah.
But I did feel at the beginning of 4 that it felt quite fresh. Like, as in, there was not much. It wasn't a direct continuation from 3.
It felt like the kind of thing that you could have maybe just jumped into without prior knowledge, potentially.
Yeah, there was a couple of like major things that did. With the places that characters were and stuff like that, but no, it wasn't like the episode 1 of season 4 was like the last. It could be added as a next episode to season 3, which some TV shows do. Yeah, right. Which I guess is kind of the point we're trying to hit here. But on the side note, I do, and I think we've talked about this before a while ago, I do really like the limited series on Netflix. I quite like having everything wrapped into one. There's a few that I've enjoyed quite a lot.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I do like, I don't mind like a single season of something, like, 8 to 12 episodes, 1 hour long, telling a story. That's fine, right? But like, for me, it's just shows where they are going to do multiple seasons, or there's a potential to do multiple seasons, where I think it just becomes painfully obvious in seasons 2, 3, 4, 5 that Netflix was just not the best format for these shows. You know what I mean? I feel like they could have done better if they were made, on a different platform, or maybe at a different time, because I guess that's just every platform is the same now, right? I don't think there are no big shows being made on network TV. I don't think that they're doing crazy well either. And I think we've talked before about how like I think Netflix does like sitcoms a disservice in that sense as well. They I feel like Netflix just doesn't have any sitcoms really, like not good or notable ones. Whereas if you look back at like the kind of mid to late 2000s, there's like this explosion of sitcoms that comes out that people love to this day, right? And maybe not even the mid 2000s, maybe like early 2000s as well, as like Friends kind of finishes off, and late 90s you got stuff like Seinfeld. There's all of these sitcoms that all of these streaming services pay so much money for, right? Netflix pays so much to have The Office, and I think Amazon currently has like Parks and Rec, and then there's like Seinfeld, and there's Friends, and Friends make so much money every year just because like the streaming services are buying to have it, right? But they put no effort into making their own sitcoms, right? Their own like rewatchable good sitcoms, and then whenever they do make a sitcom, they cancel it after 1 season. When I think it's kind of notoriously the case. You go and watch any sitcom that was made, people are like, yeah, the first season's kind of, but then it kind of finds its feet in like the second or third or fourth season. And I think Netflix just doesn't have it. I think it's just the structure of the way they make shows, where there's like not this continuity. And from what it sounds like with the writers as well, it sounds like they kind of just hire writers for a little bit, tell them, hey, write 10 episodes, and then just ditch them. They're like, okay, you've finished your work, you're now let go, right? Now we're going to go make the show, so the writers have no involvement in making the show, and then it comes to season 2, and they just hire writers again, right? Maybe sometimes there's some continuity there, but it sounds like it's so disjointed and so less, continual than an old school TV gig where, they're kind of making the show as it's being released and all that kind of stuff, which I think creates a better show,
Yeah, and I wonder how much the, early 2000s, late 90s way of doing things where people only had TV to watch. So they had a less selection of things to watch. Therefore, if the TV channel, major TV channel X decided to make a sitcom, that's what people could watch. And then as a result, people watched it because they didn't really have the choice to watch anything else, became fans, and then it became a habit, as opposed to now where you can watch a season of something and then you've got you've got a sea of other things to watch. You might then ditch it. There's more stuff, right? There's a bigger pool of things.
The thing that just surprises me though is that like these sitcoms are still popular, right? The style of show is still popular as kind of just like casual viewing TV. You know what I mean? There's so many of them. You've got like I said, The Office, Parks and Rec. There's like newer stuff like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. There is like The Big Bang Theory is a popular one. You've got older stuff like Friends and Seinfeld. There's just so many of these sitcom shows that are still popular to this day. People are still watching them on streaming services. and yet the streaming services seem to make no effort to create these kind of shows. You know what I mean? That's what's surprising me. They pay so much to renew their licenses on the old ones. I guess that kind of just blows through their comedy budget. They're like, yeah, we'll just, pay $100 million to have Friends for another year, and then that's it. We're not going to make any fresh comedies. When I feel like comedies are so cheap to make in comparison, right? The amount of money and FX, like visual effects they put into Stranger Things season 5, probably going to cost them £1 billion versus, all these sitcoms are just kind of like 8 people in a room. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I have thought that in the past. Well, you see the sets for sitcoms, right? And it's just, it's quite a small set. And that's it. That's it. You've not got any, on-site filming, and you got even cars, right? You've got the cross section with like, the green screen in the backlight.
They do all drive like this when they're going straight.
Quite funny, right? I'm like, Jesus, you must be using so much extra fuel doing this.
It's all the potholes, man. They're just avoiding the potholes.
To be fair, they must be driving in the UK, honestly. Oh dear. I wonder if because Friends and Parks and Recs and The Office and Community and all those things, because they're such household names, that people default because I know that quite a lot of younger people who watch them, right? So that to an extent takes out that, it's just because of nostalgia that these things are so popular, right? But because they are big household names, if people choose to watch those because they kind of know that they will enjoy them, as opposed to if Netflix made something new. And
I feel like that you've got to create new household names, though, because you mentioned some there that are not even that old. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, The Office and Friends are getting a little bit long in the tooth at this point. But things like Parks and Rec, I think, finished in 2015. Community, I think, finished in 2015, maybe a similar time. There's a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine finished only 2 or 3 years ago. I want to say, although it's probably 5 years ago now, because my mind is just, I've not registered the last 5 years as having passed. Yeah. But a lot of those have kind of finished recently, and it feels like they've just kind of stopped making shows like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's, I don't know what the deal is there. I don't know if it's because they're shorter or the seasons are expected to be longer. I just don't know what it is. I don't know what has changed that's kind of stopped those kind of shows being made altogether,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the current political climate around offending people that has maybe thrown things into disarray a little bit. People maybe don't want to make those shows. Think there's gonna be bad press or something. But yeah, I don't know.
The writer strikes as well. There's less.
I mean, obviously that's the last year for sure. But I feel like it's been, when did I feel like Brooklyn Nine-Nine is the last one I can think of that finished somewhat recently. Yeah, 2021 was when the last season of that released. So it was 2 years ago. But I don't know, after 2015, I feel like there's not really been much, right? And definitely not anything new, right? That's been produced kind of in that vein, especially not that's gone on for more than 2 seasons, And so I'm just surprised. I just feel like there's probably room in the market for it, but maybe there isn't, Maybe I'm mistaken. They probably know better than I do.
They've got their big data pool, don't they? Yeah, no, it is very interesting. But the one thing that is important is creating new household names, right? That 100%. Is very important. Otherwise, you just get stuck in the rut of, let's watch this thing from 2007, and then that's.
But it also just
2007.
It's just it's bad for Netflix because it means they have to keep paying other services, other companies for the rights to their shows, right? And especially as companies diversify into their own stuff, Disney's got their own platform, and they get to scoop up all of the 20th Century Fox stuff. You go on Disney, they've got Scrubs, they've got Modern Family, they've got all of that kind of those kind of sitcoms, right? And so those are all taken. Netflix can't have those, and then is it Peacock or something comes along, and they've taken the NBC stuff. So they want Friends, they want The Office, they want Community, they want all their stuff on their platform, and Netflix is having to pay more and more and more to keep these popular shows. And that what they're replacing it with? They're replacing it with reality TV, which I think is usually always popular in the moment, but has nowhere near the long tail lifespan of a well written TV show, whether it's drama or comedy, right? You always hear people talking about growing up, I would always hear about Big Brother and stuff as sitcom, as reality TV that people watch.
Funnily enough,
I don't think people are out here watching old, but I'm sure there were some people, but I don't think it's a super popular thing to watch old seasons of Big Brother, right? On repeat, right? Once you've seen it, once you've probably seen it, and you're probably done with it, right? Whereas I think the shows that are good, especially the sitcoms that are good, people will watch them again and again and again. You know what I mean? They'll keep people coming back. And so I'm surprised that they've not tried harder to capture that market and make their own lineup of household name comedy sitcom shows, you know?
Maybe they're just missing out. Maybe they're just missing out.
Maybe we need to make a new streaming service, Nick. You know, you and I.
Maybe. And, yeah.
And exclusively make
sitcoms.
9-season-long sitcoms that start out great, get better, then get worse, then get a lot worse, and then end, right?
Yes, yes.
Because that's kind of the standard format, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think, you know what? I don't think I've ever watched a sitcom through.
That's crazy.
I don't think I've even watched one season of a sitcom through. I'm not the sitcom watching type, I guess, even though I do like TV shows.
I think every sitcom we mentioned today, I think I've seen them, the whole season of all of them.
Okay.
Like seasons 1 to 10 of every show. Right. The only one I've not seen is Seinfeld. I've not watched Seinfeld through.
Interesting.
Seinfeld's I think Seinfeld finished in 99 or something.
Yeah, that would check out. Oh yeah, I've not seen even one season through of any of these sitcoms. Like I've walked in and it's been on TV and I've stared at it for 15 minutes and been like, okay. And seen snippets and clips on social media and stuff like that, especially of The Office. But
I like it as just casual TV. Like, you know, it's one of those things where you don't really have to think about what you're going to watch. You can just throw something on and it's just on. You know what I mean? You don't have to, you know, if it maybe depends on it. Maybe reflects how we watch TV, because I think we've talked before about how I if I'm going to watch TV, I want to watch TV, right? I don't want to be on my phone. I don't want to be talking to somebody. I don't want to be doing something else. If I'm going to watch a TV show that's like an actual TV show, and by that I mean it's not like a reality TV show, it's like a well-written drama or something, I'm going to go and I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to watch it, right? But that's also a lot of commitment, right? I've been like, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to focus solely on this. And so if I don't want to do that, you know, if I do want to look at my phone, or if I do want to be kind of only partially paying attention, throwing something on that's light and funny and that you can just sit and watch, or you can kind of dip in and out of, I think that works well for me.
Interesting. I think the difference between us two is that entire void for me is filled with YouTube videos.
I don't think that's different between us. I also watch a lot of YouTube videos.
It just takes up all my time. I don't ever put the TV on, because there's always something in my sub box, right?
Yeah, see, that's maybe the difference, I guess. There is a slight difference between us there, in that I don't really watch YouTube videos on my phone at all. Like really. I kind of only watch YouTube videos when I'm sat here at my desk, right? Okay, and so I'll use YouTube videos as a way to procrastinate from doing any real work. You know, I'll watch a YouTube video or something. But if I'm sat in my living room, I'm going to be watching TV, and I don't really watch YouTube videos on the TV, right? If I'm sitting and watching something on the TV, I'm going to just put something on Netflix or Disney or whatever, you know, Plex.
Yeah. Because now I exclusively watch YouTube videos on my phone, which if you told me that 5 years ago, I'd be like, what is wrong with future me? But exclusively on my phone. And for some reason, I'm getting a Discord call from you right now, which is thanks, Discord. That's nice. That's broken. We are speaking via Discord for those of you that are confused. That is why it's very odd. Anyway, yes, I exclusively watch YouTube videos on my phone. I always have my earphones in. I always carry my phone with me. Watching TV is it's almost like an event for me. Like, I don't do it very often at all. I will usually casually just watch YouTube videos, and I'll be walking around all over the place doing something, right? Most of the time I'm sat at my desk, it will still be on my phone, it will be in a corner, but even if I'm in the kitchen, if I'm in the living room, if I'm in my bedroom, if I'm brushing my teeth, we've been through this, right?
We have.
Always YouTube videos. So I think that whole thing is just taken up by YouTube videos. And it's only if there's a specific show that I need to watch.
Yeah.
Or that's something that I'm like, okay, I really need to watch season 4 of Sex Education. Or, I really need to watch the new season of Love is Blind, etc., etc. Then I'll sit down.
Are you keeping up with Love is Blind? Not season 5, man. I had no idea.
I'm watching it.
I remember we talked about it. I've seen the first season, and then I started watching. Me and my girlfriend, we started watching season 2. I don't think we finished season 2 though, man. And there's then season 3 and season 4, and then I checked. And the other day I was looking at it's season 5, and I'm like, they're on season 5. I feel like it started last year. I don't know how they managed it.
Dude, they're doing 2 seasons per year right now. They've already done one this year, but throw out the rest of season 2 and 3 and 4. Season 5 is it's messy, right? It's really good. I've been watching it with my girlfriend, and she told me about it. She's like, Love is Blind is out. And I was like, huh? First of all, I was like, what? But we watched it
2 months
4
ago.
months ago, yeah. And she was like, oh, really? I thought it was last year. And then we looked, and it turns out they are doing like 2 per year. And then she said, I've heard that this one's really good. So I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I was like, yeah, okay, let's watch it, of course. But then we started watching it, and it is really good. Like, it's just, if you want just everything going wrong and messy, watch it. It's good.
Might have to give it a try.
It's very interesting, and then we can talk about it and deliberate it. Everyone is extra attractive, I feel, this time as well. That's still not changed. Right?
It still defeats the whole point of the show.
It does. It does.
The whole point of the show, for those who don't know, is Love is Blind. They have 2 people. They have like a group of men and a group of women, and then they put them in a room, but there's like a big dividing thing between them, so they can't see each other, right? They can talk to each other for usually however long they want or whatever. And the idea is you get to know, like, all the women rotate with all the men, and you get to know all these people, and you find somebody that you want to marry by just talking to them, right? And I feel like the whole premise of Love is Blind is getting to know somebody for who they are and not how they look. But if you know for certain that the person behind the wall is super attractive, then it defeats the whole purpose of the show, right? Which I feel like is always the case. But anyway, to be fair, it would be much less fun if the people got to know each other, and then there was the big reveal where they met each other and they were like, yeah, no, I'm good, thanks. And they just kind of dipped, right? Like, that wouldn't be a fun show.
I'm done, I'm finished.
Looping back to the YouTube stuff, though, I think there might also be a disconnect here in that whilst you do, we produce this kind of stuff, these videos and whatnot, you have a job that you do that's separate to this, right? Whereas I spend all of my day on the YouTube website, right? I create content for YouTube. I edit and post these podcasts and stuff. I make thumbnails. And so for me, when I'm not at my desk, I'm not going on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
I'm away from the YouTube website. I'm like, nope, I'm done. I'm good. Thank you. I don't want to go and sit in the living room and then open up the same website that I work for, every single day of the year, right? I want to be kind of checked out. And so I go sit on the couch. It's like, okay, let's watch Netflix. You know what I mean?
Yes. That is fair enough, actually. That does make sense. Whereas YouTube for me is, I'm more of the day-to-day, I'm more of the consumer side. Yeah. You're more of the producer side. So that's probably why I'm like, okay, I need to go on YouTube again.
Yeah, right. If I open YouTube on my TV, I'm like seeing recommendations for the gaming videos and thinking, oh, should I make that kind of thumbnail? Should I incorporate this kind of design? That title's interesting. Oh, look how they've, done this or whatever. And I'm like, I don't need to be doing any of that, right? Like,
yes.
I'll watch a YouTube video or a Netflix show or whatever where I don't have to, I'm not competing with The Office,
Exactly.
That's not my area of expertise, so that's fine.
The brain is not getting as activated when you for all of the analytical things, I guess, right? Which is very fair enough. So we are 33 minutes into this podcast, Isaac. So it's never a better time for me to ask you. Isaac.
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Oh, Nick, I thought you'd never ask. So, I've been listening to audiobooks on Spotify. No, I'm joking. A few weeks ago, man, you came on the podcast and you mentioned that you had been throwing at a bar in the UK. And at the time I Googled it and it turns out there's one in Leeds, which is somewhat close to me. You went to the one in Birmingham. And so the other night, my girlfriend and I went out, Nick, and we went to this, it's called Boom Battle Bar. We went to the one in Leeds. And as we mentioned before, it says on the Leeds website that they have augmented reality axe throwing, right? And so we were kind of debating. My initial thought process was that you wouldn't throw real axes, or that some kind of, I didn't know how it would work. Turns out you do throw real axes. What they mean by augmented reality is they've got a projector that projects down onto this hay bale that you're throwing the axes at, and then they have like different games that relate to. I don't know how yours work. Did you just throw yours at like a static image, or like what's the?
So I've been to 2. Both were Boom Battle bars. I actually haven't been to the Birmingham one. I've been to one in Liverpool, and that one was throw axe at the board, and we note down our scores on a whiteboard that was in the lane. I've also been to one in Southampton, and that one was projector on the board. And like, so effectively it was a wooden board. The projector was projecting the dartboard, shall we say, or axe board, and the scoring regions changed each round.
Yes.
So
this
where
was
you
the same
get,
for me.
Max points changes each round. Yeah.
So was that? So I started with that one, and there was like a couple of different games you could play. One where it just like throws a bunch of zombie heads, and you got to throw it, and you hit zombie heads in that one. You know? But like,
we didn't have that.
I don't know how it worked for you, but like, there's a projector, and there's a person who's there, kind of supervising the event, right, next to our lane. But like, she's just got a mouse and keyboard, and it's the thing wherever you throw the axe and it hits somewhere, and you see her mouse just click, and she types in 6, and she types in the number that you hit. Like, it's not actually like any kind of sophisticated system. It's just a project. Like, calling it augmented reality is really stretching the limits of how we're using that term, right? It's just a projector. And then, whenever I'd throw the axe, if I'd hit a zombie, she'd go and click. Or if I got close, she'd kind of go and just like click. And she was very generous with the throwing.
Nice.
It's difficult throwing an axe into a hay bale. You kind of initially think that you want to. I found that the side throw was much more doable than the overhead throw, personally.
Yeah.
Like the two-handed kind of like overhead, yeet. But initially you think kind of just throw it as hard as you can. But it spins way too much and bounces off, right? So I feel like you got to do it slower and more kind of in a more forceful and like deliberate way to get it to actually, hit into what is a hay bale with a projector over the front of it.
Yeah. Because you think initially, right? Yeah. It's all about accuracy, right? Usually the accuracy is pretty good.
Yep.
But the element that is incorporated into this that isn't in darts is that this axe is rotating, and thus you have to get it perfectly so that the axe head is upright and facing the board when it hits it, right? Because you can be as accurate as you want, but if the axe is facing the wrong way, it will just bounce off the scoring board.
So many times I'd hit like right in the red zone, it just bounced right off and not even hit it at all. But yeah, so you said you've been twice, Nick, and I can tell you that the experience I had at the one in Leeds was not what you experienced. I was not given a band. There were no...
Okay.
In terms of like, you mentioned having a band being like, don't serve alcohol.
Yes.
We went out for a meal beforehand, and I purposely didn't get a drink. Neither did my girlfriend. We're like, okay, we're going to go axe throwing, let's not do it. We get there.
Yeah.
No restrictions in terms of not buying a drink. In fact, there were 2 lanes. The lane next to us, they were actively drinking, and one man was. So there was a person. There were 2 like staff. It was like it seemed like they didn't know like how to run any of it, because I kind of walked in and like there was like a front desk and it was upstairs. The front desk empty, so we went upstairs, and then we had to go to like a booth where they you got told them what you were doing. And I was like, hey, okay, we're here we're booked for axe throwing at 10 p.m. or whatever it was. And like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Just go wait by the thing and somebody will with you. Like 20 minutes later, we'd only booked in for half an hour of axe throwing. 20 minutes later, someone, the same lady who told us to go wait, she comes around and is the person who kind of waits for us. But the aisle next to us had like 4 people in it, all of whom were drinking. 2 guys drinking beers, 2 women drinking cocktails. One guy definitely had too much to drink. He was like, when you start, they're like, hey, throw it either like this with like a right angle on your arm, like that, or throw it overhead, with the 2 hands on the axe. This guy, he was going for it. He was like leaning down and belting it as hard as he could at the thing. Like he was a little tipsy, he should probably not have been throwing axes. Thankfully, you're in like this big metal cage and there's like a thing between the 2 lanes, so I wasn't worried about getting attacked by an axe. But like our woman it's like, hey, only 1 person in the cage at any given time, listing all the rules. We look over on their side. One of the women's about to throw it. The dude bloody runs it in, like walks in behind her and like grabs her arm and is like, no, and like then tries to help her throw it. And I'm like, what is going on? The dude next to us does not give a flying F about what is happening here. I'm like, oofed.
Oh, that's interesting.
It was I don't want to snitch on the Boom Battle Bar in Leeds, but their approach to axe throwing and alcohol consumption was quite lax.
That is really interesting.
It's not as dangerous as it sounds. It's a pretty undangerous. I would say it's only mildly more dangerous than darts, right?
Yeah, it depends, because small axes you had, I assume, they're like Stanley,
yeah,
like
tiny
kind
little,
of,
tiny little axes,
yeah,
throwing
not
axes.
that
You got
big,
3 of them. Yeah. But like, obviously, you can at most pubs in the UK, you can drink as much as you want and play darts, right? There's not usually like a limitation on darts playing, and you can do quite a bit of damage with a dart to somebody. These axes were pretty blunt. You're probably picturing like razor sharp axes. I could probably have run this along my arm and it wouldn't have drawn blood, right? Like they're very blunt axes. And so obviously if you belt it at someone's head, it's going to deal damage, but but like for the most part it's not super dangerous, but even still I was quite surprised.
Yeah, it's quite surprising actually. Yeah, because I thought it would be like a location-wide thing, right? Where they're like, okay, you need to do this.
It said on the website, like we had to sign a waiver before we could do it online, and it does say online. It's like, so my girlfriend was annoyed because they listed a whole set of things. So like, ladies must be able to tie their hair back, no heels. They had like a whole list of rules. We get there, obviously the ladies next to us drinking cocktails, heels as high as they want, hair down. My girlfriend stood there wearing flat shoes to a night out, and she's got like a bubble ready to tie her hair back and just didn't need it. None of it was required. No. They didn't care about any of it. You could drink what you want. You could wear the heels. You could have your hair down. Like, they just did not care at all, which I was very surprised at. But it was fun. We did half an hour. Fun. And then we kind of did like a couple of the other activities they did. They had the same deal, but with darts. So they had augmented reality darts that we also played, where you've got like a screen. This one was better, I think, because one, it wasn't supervised, which is always kind of awkward, especially when there was just 2 of us, For me, it was just me and my girlfriend. So when I woke up, it's just my girlfriend and this random woman stood there while I throw axes, and then it swaps around. It's just me and this random woman stood there while she throws axes. But with the darts, you had like a screen, and with the darts, it was augmented reality, but the projector in this scenario could detect where you hit the dartboard. Like, it wasn't a real dartboard, it was just a foam board with a dartboard projected on it. Or like a chalkboard, whatever it is. But this time, when you threw the darts, the computer was like, oh yeah, that's a 20, or that's a triple 20, or whatever, and it actually registered it. And I was like, is this not possible with the X throwing? Is that like technology that's too advanced for this world? But that was good fun. And then they also had a craziest golf, is what they also had. It was like a mini golf thing with, I think, like 8 holes. And like, it starts out as a regular kind of mini golf vibe, right, where you just got like a hole and you hit a thing. But then it gets kind of wackier and wackier as you go, and eventually you're putting like golf balls into slingshots, and you got to pull it back and kind of fire it at a hole, and then there's like they had multiple different things with like just wacky ways of playing golf. At least half of them didn't involve using the stick at all. You were just kind of doing all kinds of other stuff with your golf ball, and then marking your score down and whatnot. But it's a fun evening. It's good. It's just it is. Be careful around the X throwers, because they're a little tipsy.
In the Leeds location. that is fantastic. I assume you've never been to a flight club, then.
I have not.
Flight Club, if you liked the darts at Boom Battle Bar, you will really like Flight Club. Flight Club is awesome. I'm not sure if they've got one in Leeds. I would assume they do, because they've got them in quite a few locations in the country. So Flight Club is augmented reality darts, but it's with an actual dartboard and actual darts, and it does track your shots perfectly. And then there's a big TV screen, almost like a bowling alley, and the TV screen has all of the mini games, and they're like really, really polished, well thought out mini games. And you can score differently. You can have different teams of people. You can even order drinks. Like, you can push a thing on the screen where you choose the mini games, and like someone will come to you to take drinks. And like you said about darts at Boom Battle Bar, you are allowed to very much to drink.
Do it yourself,
on the lanes. There's a special name that they have for darts lanes. I forgot the name they use, but it's something quite rogue. That's like darts terminology. I think it's like, it starts with an E. It's like a oosh.
O-C-H-E?
An oosh.
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 That's O-C-H-E.
Or Osh, I think.
Well, the Google pronunciation man said Oki, which...
Oh, maybe it's that then.
I don't know.
Google's programmed correctly, which I assume maybe not. It's just like trying to read the letters.
It says the line behind which dart players stand when throwing, and they said Oki. I don't know if that's right or not, but the augmented reality darts at Boom Battle Bar, not particularly good at detecting your throw. I would say about 1 in 3 dart throws. So if you miss the board, you had to click miss on the screen. There's like a button though, you press miss.
Oh, okay.
So if you miss, like, the virtual, it's weird though, because the projector projected onto this big rectangle, right, wider than the dartboard itself, but it can only detect within the circle of the dartboard. But even if you hit on the dartboard, about 1 in 3 times, just wouldn't register it. Like, you'd throw it, you'd hit like 18, and it would just like not show up. And you'd have to click miss to get it to skip, and you just wouldn't get the points for it, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder if... Go on.
They also had the thing, they had the thing where they had the QR codes on the table, like a little thing next to each lane, and it was like, scan here to order drinks or whatever. You order drinks? Doesn't work. Just didn't work at all.
Right.
And so you had to leave to go and get drinks. Like, it's just, it was a
level
fun
of
evening.
Polish,
It was a fun evening, but the whole, considering how much you pay for each of these activities, which is not an insignificant amount of money, each one was like a little bit, you could do with some work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The darts could do with being more responsive in terms of the scores that you get. The service could have been a bit better, and then like the whole axe throwing system, just get your rules straight. You know what I mean? Just like, as long as I know ahead of time, like, I get it in that, like, they're probably just doing it to cover their butts legally, right? Like, we told you couldn't wear heels, and so if you get in an accident while wearing heels, that's your fault, not our fault, right? But like, I don't know. It's annoying when you go following their rules and then it turns out you don't have to follow the rules, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. I do wonder, I know Flight Club is global. I wonder if they have either just had more budget. Oh, very nice. I would recommend it. I wonder if they have more budget.
It looks like a nice place.
I wonder if they've got patents, on some of these technologies. That's where that could potentially be the one of the reasons why they might have it done so well.
But it also looks like they're
specializing in darts.
I was going to say they've got more focus, right, in terms of what they're working on. Whereas like the Boom Battle Hour I went to, it was very busy. Seemingly the only reason it was busy is that there was a Logan Paul fight on that was being projected on the screen.
Okay, this was on Saturday night.
I had no idea that this fight was taking place. But I get there, and like West in a corner playing darts on this aisle, and I hear people screaming, like dudes, we're like, "Way!" in the middle of the thing. And then initially there's music, and then it switches, and I look over, and they've just got the boxing match on like a giant projector, right? And it's like it's Logan Paul, right? Not Jake Paul. Yeah, it's Logan Paul.
It was Logan Paul and Dylan Dennis. Yeah,
and then KSI and somebody as well.
I forgot who KSI was fighting.
I assume that Logan Paul won. It looked like he won based on the based on the way that
he did. It ended with a ring invasion from all of security because the guy that Logan Paul was fighting put him in a headlock in the last round, and then basically tried to start attacking him in a non-boxing fashion. All of security then came in, and then he started trying to box security. So I think he got disqualified. There's a whole thing behind it. People think that it was staged to an extent.
It sounds like it must have been. Like,
right, with these things.
Because I'd seen, like, it's not something I follow, but I didn't really watch what was going on. I just kind of... I saw it was on, and then like 15 minutes later, I saw that Logan was giving a speech, which looked like to me it looked like a victory speech, and I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah. And prior to that, I'd seen something on Twitter, right? Because Twitter defaults to like the For You page now as opposed to the following page, which I dislike tremendously. But like, I saw one of the tweets was like Logan quote tweeting like the person he was against or something, and like, I don't know. It seems staged, which is not a bad thing necessarily, right? Like, I think people probably prefer the staged content, right? It's like professional wrestling, right? Where it's just like people care more about the story and the intrigue and the drama and the whole thing rather than like
hype, right?
Exactly, right. Rather than it's rather than like who's competitively just the best, right? Exactly, it's not like the Olympics where it's like who gets the best time to the nearest millisecond. It's it's more about the people involved, right?
Yeah. There's been a lot of articles I've seen online about how that is potentially hurting boxing because the actual boxing matches are getting so much lower viewership. They call it misfits boxing, I think, in YouTuber boxing, where it's more of the hyped up stuff. What I found really funny, I didn't watch the fight live, but because most people I knew were talking about it, I watched the highlights the next day. I found it so funny when one of the two fighters would do something seemingly just really stupid or that made no sense. And the commentators would be like, well, he's employing a defensive strategy here. It's really clever because he wants to tire Logan out. But, it's genius. Some would argue it's genius. And this guy was just like covering his face the whole match. And I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
The way they're the way they're commenting on that. Yeah, no, it was very funny. To bring us back to the Flight Club and Boom Battle Bar topic. Have you noticed this explosion in sport-themed bars recently? So
elaborate.
We've got Flight Club, which is a darts and a bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boom Battle Bar, which has axe throwing and is a bar.
Mm-hmm.
Lane 7, bowling and a bar, not as much as sport in the traditional sense, but still people do competitive bowling.
I feel like almost all bowling alleys are also bars usually, right?
Yes, also true, to be fair. There is mini golf bars, that's exploded as well. But I have noticed in the last few years, cricket nets. So there's a bar chain called Sixes, which is cricket nets and also a bar. And now I've seen building in Birmingham a football bar, which is some kind of gamified football version of a bar, which is not just a sports bar where you watch football. It's actually, there's activities of football involved. So I've been like, wow.
The in Leeds there was 3 Roxy's, like 3 of them in Leeds Centre alone.
Yeah.
And then they built a 4th one and closed down one of the initial 3. And they've got like ice curling in one of those now, like a big old curling lane as well.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense because I think people have stuff to do that's not just drinking, right?
Mm-hmm,
like you can go to a pub, I guess, if you just want to sit and drink, or you could even just go to the supermarket and then come home, right? If you just want to sit and drink with your friends,
true,
right?
Yeah.
You need like a reason to go out and drink. And I think that those activities make it more worthwhile. I think there's also kind of this situation where the high street is foobarred, Shops are closing down on the high street left, right, and center, right? And so I think there's just a lot of space, like retail space, that used to be for these giant stores, right? There's so many things that have closed down recently, right? Like House of Fraser is gone,
yeah.
BHS, there's all these stores that used to be giant department stores, and so there's all this space, and in this giant amount of space you can now fit bowling alleys, you can fit axe throwing lanes, you can fit a giant bar, with space for a projector and seating and stuff. And I imagine it's cheaper because no clothing store is going to go and compete against Amazon or Next, like they're not going to try and or Primark, right? Like no one's going to try and open up a giant store like that charges more. And so I think there's just this coalition of like people wanting stuff to do, and there being a lot of retail space that's probably cheaper than it used to be because of the fact that nobody goes into the high street to buy, physical goods anymore. They go to buy services, right? Like X-Story and the cinema and stuff like that, right?
And funnily enough, it was a closed down Debenhams that is being reconstructed into the football bar, which is I walked past it the other day and I was like, it was all boarded up and it was like, we're doing this football thing. And then we had a flagship John Lewis, which was in a train station, right? And the train station was built around the John Lewis. And the mayor, the old mayor of Birmingham, he was the ex, I want to say CEO of John Lewis, or he was like the director. But it's closed down. The John Lewis has closed down. They've closed it down. And so there was a gaping hole in the train station, in the biggest retail space in the train station. And they're turning it into co-working spaces. The whole thing is being turned into co-working spaces. And I'm like, there you go. There's a big change up, isn't there, of what things are being used for. They wanted to turn it into apartments first, which was weird because I don't know how many people want to live in a train station, pretty much. I
mean,
I know it's convenient,
but
but it was a little bit weird.
It's the same here. They've just torn down like a giant, like 4-story House of Fraser, and like in its place they're doing like the standard. There's like a cinema and restaurant spots and like fast food places, and and then I guess that it's just kind of how it is, right?
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
There's not enough demand for the physical goods. depending on where you go, like big cities are not quite as bad, right? Like you can walk through, Manchester, Leeds. I've not been to Birmingham in ever, but I assume it's the same way. You can walk through and there's still like a lot of foot traffic. There's a lot of people there
Absolutely.
because they're not just reliant on Debenhams, right? There's like a lot of, financial work and like kind of white collar office work. Whereas the town that I live in is not that, right? There's very little in the sense of white collar work. And so you walk through the town and it is just barren. It is actually barren. There's so many shops that are just to let. And they're all too small to do anything other than like a butcher or like a small clothing outlet. But there's just no demand for it. There's just no demand for it. And it is just barren. There's nothing there. And so all they just keep doing is tearing stuff down and building new student accommodation. That's all.
That's another one. Oh my
There's just
God,
so much student accommodation.
In student accommodation is absolutely ridiculous. It is really interesting because I second Wolverhampton city centre, and that is very much dying in terms of its retail space. And it's always, I barely go to the town there anymore because it's just everything is shut, everything is to let, everything is boarded up, and it's pretty dire. To be honest, it is unfortunate, but it's just the way that things are progressing. I don't know if you've noticed, but another observation I've made on the high street is that everyone is becoming a vape store as well. Yeah. So there's a Xiaomi store in Birmingham, right? A branded Xiaomi store that sells Xiaomi products, but on the front of the store is not phones, it's a wall of disposable vapes. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Just everyone is selling them. They're like, we are a bakery, but we also sell vapes.
I don't get it. I don't get it. Like I walk through my town center and there is so many vape stores. There cannot be this many people who vape, right? Like I get that there are a lot of people who vape, but like there are so many independent stores. I do not understand it. Like I feel like more people used to smoke when I was a child. Like at least I knew more people who smoked than I know that vape now. And there were never like dedicated stores to cigarettes, right? Like they would sell cigarettes at like every corner shop that you went to, but they were never like, you wouldn't walk through town and see like multiple giant cigarette only stores, right? And I don't understand where the market is for all the independent vapories.
I think maybe it's just observations, because from my observations, everybody vapes now.
Really?
I think it's a problem as well. It's becoming quite a big issue, both for people's health and the environment, because of all of these disposable
single-use
devices.
Ones.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Maybe my circle has just changed.
It's not. Well, to be fair, like I did know a few people who don't anymore.
The thing that gets me though is like the explosion in vaping is mostly, I assume, driven by young people, right? I think there are
absolutely,
because for a time the whole shtick of vaping was like it's better for you than smoking, right? And so the idea was that if you are a smoker and you're like older, 40, 50, 60, you should switch to vaping because it's better for you than smoking. There's no like tar in a vape, right? It's just kind of like the nicotine, which nicotine is bad for you if you consume it enough anyway, but still, it's supposed to be better than cigarettes. And so there was a time where I saw, 50-year-olds switch to vaping, and I'm amazed that they've managed to pivot this marketing to teenagers again. Because in my mind, if you see your parents or your parents' parents vaping, you're going to be like, that's not for me. You know what I mean? But apparently that's not the case. Apparently it's been, I guess I underestimate how addictive nicotine is.
Yeah, but honestly, yeah. I've tried it. Two things. It hits your head. Like, I've not really tried cigarettes that much, but I tried it the odd time. Hits your head way harder, and it's way easier to do it inside. I think that's one of the main things.
Yeah, that's true.
People just do it inside.
Again, there were people doing it at the Boom Battle Bar. You can just see them vaping, right? Like, you're not allowed to, it's illegal to, but they do it all the time, right? Because people are
like inside your own home as well. It's just easier to do that inside. You're not going to make everything stink of smoke. But and it's too accessible.
The thing I was getting at though is that like if it's young people driving this boom, are they not ordering them online? Are people just buying them in store?
I think,
and if so, I know at my local supermarket there's like a wall of them. Are people not buying them at like the corner shop or the supermarket? Are they going to these dedicated vape stores to buy these vapes? Like I don't get it.
Again, from what I've observed, the dedicated little vape shops and the phone shops and stuff that are selling them as well sell them for the cheapest.
Really?
Weirdly, yeah. Sell them for the cheapest. There's the odd corner store where if it's the only corner store in the entire area, they'll hike the price up. But those shops tend to be the cheapest. I see so many people going in. I think also alcohol creates a like consuming alcohol creates like a desire to do it, right? So I think a lot of people will be like, "Oh, I'm not going to buy anything, right? I'm not going to vape." Da, 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 da. 2 drinks in,
and then they want to impulsively buy some.
Shop. Yeah. So I think
I guess in my head, I'm thinking of like, if I was an addict, I'd just make sure I had some, right? I would just like order it in bulk online. And this is not advice, by the way.
Please don't do this.
Don't smoke, don't vape, don't drink. But if I would just like go online, buy the cheap bulk stuff, and then have my 1 month supply, because I assume they don't go bad, right? And then just slowly, tap into them.
Yeah.
And then buy another batch.
I think those people then pivot to getting the non-disposable ones.
Yeah.
And I guess that is done online / they'd go to their local vape shop.
Yeah.
And get that. Maybe it's the instant need for one or instant want for one, right?
Also, I guess I'm just not the demographic. I don't understand, because like in my opinion, I'd be like, is it not cheaper to buy the refillable stuff? Like, as opposed to buying a disposable one every time? Like,
100% it would be,
but I guess you're right. There could be this, like, sense of, like, they don't want to keep doing it, but they do keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's where
it's like, I'm going to stop any day now, and they just don't. You keep buying disposable ones. Yeah. It sounds like they're going to legislate on it by the looks of it.
It does, which I think is good.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think
for the environment as well.
Just everything. Like, the fact that I walk into the supermarket, and like maybe like a year or two ago, they put in this like giant display at the front of the supermarket that is for vaping, and it's just so vibrant. It's full of colors. There's so many flavors to choose from. I hate it, but I'm like, I feel like that's probably not how it should be. Don't get me wrong. I guess that's how alcohol is, though, right? As well, alcohol, is now full of bright colors and bright labels and like pre-mixed everything, and like. I don't know
what catches the eye of the young people.
It sounds like they're gonna move towards either limiting the flavors, right, to like menthol and unflavored.
Yeah.
Or I think the probably more likely option is that they'll just like put laws on the packaging where they have to put those pictures of like dying children or something on the front that make you less likely to buy them.
Exactly.
But I mean, to be fair, is there not a? I don't know if there's not a similar argument to be made for doing the same with alcohol.
I think there is. I think it's kind of so well known that alcohol is the most impactful drug on humans generally for everything.
Also just for health outcomes as well, like for the UK.
Yes, absolutely. Like
I think smoking is still the biggest killer, like actual old school smoking, but just so few people do it now, and then followed by alcohol the second.
Exactly.
I guess it's just so ingrained, right? People
exactly.
People are going to fight tooth and nail against it.
It's too ingrained in culture. It's just too ingrained in culture. It would be impossible for a government to legislate. It's like in the 1930s or 20s or whenever it was when America went through
prohibition.
That's it, prohibition, and it just meant that people were just cooking up moonshine, right? That was ended up being much worse for them.
I wouldn't say like make it illegal, but I'm just surprised that like you're already not allowed to advertise alcohol, right? Like there's no.
Yes, I think so.
Advertise
past a certain time on TV as well and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know what the law is on that. Because I guess you do see it sometimes, but you're definitely not allowed to advertise cigarettes. I think ever, right? I think cigarettes are just like you can't. There are no adverts for them anywhere. But I'm just surprised that there's not been a push like with cigarettes and like with vaping to put those warning labels on alcohol, right? To be a bit cynical, I think it's because the government does things that people who vote for them want, and the people who vote for them are 75-year-olds who vote. Like young people don't vote.
Exactly.
And old people also drink, but old people don't vape, right? And so I think people, it's easy for the old people to be like, oh yeah, no, it's the vaping that's the problem. There's nothing wrong with my drinking. It's these disposable vapes that are bad. And so the government's like, yeah, we should work on disposable vapes. And then whenever anyone brings up like, alcohol's kind of bad, everyone's like, whoa.
I don't know what
happened to freedom, guys?
Exactly.
So I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll see how that goes. But no, it's wild, man. It's I don't know how we got into
It
vaping.
is.
At all.
Yeah.
I said I don't know how we got into vaping at all.
Oh no, shops have become vape stores.
Oh yeah,
shops
you were talking about there being nothing on the high street. Yeah, no, that is true. There was just so many vape stores, and I don't get it.
No, it's mental.
Vapes, it's just vapes and fast food outlets.
That's
all there is.
Exactly. There is a rise of more independent fast food outlets as well that I've seen as well, like regional ones, which is always quite funny.
Yeah, no, there's so many takeaways that just sell the same thing. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, again, you walk through the town center where I am, and the number of places that all are just kind of generic takeaways that sell burgers, kebabs, pizza, doner, curries. Like, and they're not good at any of them. Like, they don't make particularly good versions of any one of those things. Chicken nuggets, but they sell all of them, and and every single one sells the same, frozen
generic
beef burger.
stuff.
They all sell a generic pizza, and it's just like, I'm like, what?
What's going on here? What is going on?
It's like we're living in a simulation, and you just walk past and they're all selling the same stuff again and again and again. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't understand that either.
Unfortunately, Nick, we're out of time for this episode of Nik and Isaac Rant About the World. Thank you for listening. If you would like to listen to more, you can go ahead and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcasting platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, also known now as YouTube Music, is now where the Google Podcasts are, I think.
Yes.
Spotify as well. We are on Spotify. You can rate us there as well if you'd like. 5 stars would be appreciated. And you can find us on YouTube. YouTube.com/Nick and Isaac is where we post the podcast as well as some of our other content if you're into that kind of thing. For now, though, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll talk to your ears next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.